Hello and welcome back to Kim's Cozy Corner. I'm Kim and I am getting ready to go out of town for about a week. And when I get ready to go out of town, I need to check everything in the garden to see what I need to work on a little bit before I go out of town. And so that's what I did today. After I got the girls off to school this morning, I went throughout my garden and was just kind of checking on a few things. And there were some things that I thought you might want to see and you might want to know about because you may be experiencing some of the same things. So one of the first things that I saw as I was checking in on my garden, y'all, not only do I have squirrels in my garden, not only do I have chipmunks in my garden, which by the way, we caught yesterday, one of the babies, and hopefully all of the chipmunks will be gone by the end of this weekend, but we also have a pesky rabbit. I tell you, I found the rabbit nibbling on a few things in my garden, and here's the picture of that rabbit. This is the rabbit we're talking about. There's not a whole family that we know of anyway. There may be some babies somewhere. Maybe that's why he's hanging around. But there's a rabbit in my garden, y'all. And so I go over to the neighbors, which is right behind me here, and I manage the garden that's right behind me. And I go over there, and y'all, here are the pictures of me going over there. And all I can do is just shake my head. Y'all, my broccoli is gone. I mean, gone. It looks like somebody took a knife and just cut away all the florets and all the leaves and just left this little stem at the back end. Y'all, my broccoli's gone. The whole point this year was to grow enough broccoli for a year. So I planted 2, maybe 3 times as much broccoli, and my broccoli's gone. So I only had my phone. So here's some pictures and some comments that I was making as I realized that my broccoli was gone. Ate all of the green beans. There are no green beans left in this bed. Just nibbled them down to nothing. There were 4 purple broccoli over here. I'm down to 2. Completely obliterated this bed. And only got a taste for broccoli apparently in this bed because didn't touch the cabbage at all. And in this bed here, the broccoli is gone as well. So apparently this was the main course and that was dessert over there. Now, if I was thinking, I would have turned my camera the right way, but I didn't. But my broccoli's gone. Now, you saw we have cages out. So we plan on catching that rabbit this weekend. That's our goal. We're going to catch that rabbit, that one rabbit that's wreaking havoc in the garden. So when I got back from going out, I guess it was about lunchtime, I went out and I came back and y'all, the cage was bumping around. Y'all, I thought we had the rabbit. We had a squirrel. But that's okay. They need to go too. So anyway, here's the rest of the video of my neighbor's garden and how it's doing and some of the things that we're going to work on here before I go out of town. But the rabbit didn't touch these green beans right here. Didn't touch them at all. And the only difference is that this is a metal raised bed and it's just a little higher than the wooden raised beds over there. So these green beans are safe. And these are my neighbor's favorite green beans over here. My winter squash is looking pretty good too. Celery is nice. My dwarf tomatoes are nice and green, healthy and thick, and are blooming. And there's my first tomato in this garden here, in this bed. Supporting these tomatoes, I have a product called the Mighty Crop. It's a support system that supports many different types of vegetables. If this is something you're interested in, you can find a link in the description box below. And there's some kind of plant. I believe this is some type of melon plant right here, I think. Maybe it's a cucumber. I'm not sure what this is, but it shouldn't be there. So we are going to let it grow and see what the surprise will be. It's a volunteer. I also have volunteer rosemary in this bed. And I planted rosemary in this bed about 4 years ago, and it has spread just a little bit, and I just let it grow. And I didn't spend a lot of time over at the neighbors, just checking on a few things, and for the most part, it was doing really well. And you can see that the metal raised beds over here, in the metal raised bed, the rabbit didn't touch a thing. Those beans look amazing. But maybe it's because the bed where the broccoli was is right next to some flowers with a lot of greenery that the rabbit can hide in and be protected from predators, where this other bed is way on the other side of the garden. So maybe that's why it's only messing with that side of the garden. But that's the neighbors. That's what's been going on over at the neighbors. Now, let me show you a video of the main garden and how it's doing and everything that's going on over there. And then right here in this bed, I have my summer squash. So there's all kinds of zucchini in here, Italian squash in here, and another right there. That right there is another volunteer tomato, and I honestly don't know what kind of tomato that'll be. And this here is my okra. I have okra in this bed. I have two different kinds. I have a red okra and Clemson spineless okra in here. And y'all, I don't like okra. Don't like it at all, but my mother does. And it looks like we'll have plenty of plants in here for her to enjoy. Now it looks like there's an ant bed in there as well. You might not be able to see them moving, but there are ants going crazy in there. Hopefully that doesn't affect the growth. And y'all, look at this. This is my rhubarb, and ants have just taken over this rhubarb. Look, it completely just ate that stalk away. And they're coming up and down the sides of this particular stem here. I hope they're not killing my rhubarb, but I got some dead leaves on it. So hopefully the rhubarb will be okay, because I need a rhubarb pie this year. I plan to harvest rhubarb this year. Look at that corn. The corn came up. There's corn there, and there's corn over here. Now, I did hear that I shouldn't have mixed the corn, because when it comes to pollinating, you don't want that cross-pollination. I didn't know that because I don't know anything about corn, but we'll see what happens. It was just an experiment, but I do have some corn coming up that the squirrels or the birds and the rest of those critters didn't get. So I'm really happy about the corn. I also wanted to show you this right here. The onion plants are starting to bulb up. I think these are Texas 1015s, which is a short day onion. And there was some concern that they won't grow for me in my region. And yes, they do. And they're starting to bulb up. They're looking really, really good. Now this container of potatoes, this one right here, it is dying back. So I'm not watering this potato now. I want it to go ahead and finish dying back. And when I get back from my trip, this will be the first container that I'm harvesting of potatoes. I started this containers indoors in my indoor grow space and brought it outside when the weather warmed up. and it had blooms on it, and I didn't put any trellising on it, so it's kind of flopped over and just laying over. But this plant has been going for a long time, so hopefully we'll get some potatoes off of that one. And this little bitty one, I don't think is quite ready. That one broke down there. That broke off, but then there's a nice solid stalk right there. I don't think that one's ready, but this one is. Just want to show you my grapes up close. I have so many more grapes this year than I had last year. So hopefully we'll get a nice grape harvest. And I did prune these grapes back. I pruned them back to 2 or 3 vines in the snow, by the way, when I was doing it. It was snowing outside. And I pruned them back to just a couple vines coming across. All of the stuff that you see is green. All of that's new growth that came on this year when the weather warmed up. So we will have grapes again this year, and hopefully a much larger harvest. And there's one of my first tomatoes in this bed here. That's a steak sandwich. And I was trying to pull that tomato plant, and look, y'all, I broke it. I broke it this morning, but it'll recover. It's healthy and it's happy, so it'll recover. I have one more headed lettuce right there. Oh, 2. There's another one in the back there. 2 headed lettuce that need to get picked. And then I have some Chinese cabbage that's almost shaded out by these potato plants. Y'all, I have containers of potatoes right here in between these 2 metal beds. I think there's about 5 containers there. And don't get me wrong, my potato plants always get really large, but they're even larger than normal. And if you can see here, those are blooms. Here's another bloom right here. Anytime you see blooms, that means that there are potatoes down below. So, and I trellis my potatoes. So remember I had the little supports on there? Those potato plants came up through the supports, and it's helping to hold those stems up. So for those who don't believe it's necessary, maybe not, but it definitely helps hold all of those tomato stems up. And you see how healthy they are? And they're, oh my goodness, they're every bit over 3 feet tall, the plants are, and growing up through that support system. So tall, like I said, shading out the cabbage that I have behind it here. I was really worried about putting those containers in between the 2 metal raised beds, but it looks like that's a good home. And when the metal raised beds, which are on drip, so my pots are not on drip, but the metal raised beds are, when that water comes out through the bottom, those pots get to enjoy that excess water from the bed. And I don't believe I'm going to have to water these pots that often because of the extra water that it's getting from the drip irrigation that's in the beds. When I planted this particular bed right here, based on what I read, the red Pontiac plants were supposed to be the largest plants in the bed, and I put them toward the back over here. Based on what I read, I tried to put my plants smallest from a height of the green stalks, smallest down on this end, and get taller as you come down here. But the red Pontiac is the shortest plant in the bed. I mean, they're not even up to the support system yet, where everything else is above the support system. So I will make a note in my garden journal, and here's a picture of my garden journal, and I have note pages in there for me to make note of these type things. So next year, it'll help me when I'm planting out my beds and my different vegetables. Now, in this metal raised bed, the only thing in this bed are potatoes. That's it. That's all that's in this bed. And there are mid-season and late-season potatoes, and there are blooms. There are blooms everywhere in this bed, which means there are potatoes down below. Super excited about that. And the red Pontiac potatoes, they're blooming. So I know there are potatoes down below, But the height of those stems, I was wrong. And I definitely have to capture that in my garden journal. If you're interested in my garden journal, there will be a link to it down below. Now, my garden journal, I developed it for me so that I could capture notes from my garden. It's not a professional journal. It's super simple. It's for a beginner gardener. It's not for the experienced people, if you know what I mean, because it's just a couple of things in there. How to start your seeds, when you're planting, fertilizing, and taking some notes. That's all that's in there, but it's perfect for me. Look at this. Peas are coming on. There's some peas on there. Look at that. So when I get back from my trip, we'll be harvesting a few peas as well. Boy, that ground cherry has just taken off right there. I planted one more ground cherry right there, and it hasn't even been a week yet, so hopefully it'll take off just like that one. Oh, there are blooms. There are blooms on here. Oh, wow. Okay, I've never grown ground cherries before. I was told to put it in a container versus in the direct soil, like in the ground. So hopefully, oh my goodness, there's a big one. Look, 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 there's a couple. Look at that. So it grows inside this husk looking thing here. And I was told it's ready when it kind of falls off. But look at that, y'all. Ground cherries are coming. Tomatoes are looking good. My marjoram, sweet marjoram, looks good back here as well. It's like this bed just woke up all at once and is so happy. The peaches are getting bigger, so they're happy as well. Here's some more of those potatoes these are in grow bags. So the pots that I have between the two green metal raised bed, Vego Garden metal raised bed, there's a link to those as well in the description below. But these are all plastic pots. I think they're 7-gallon pots. And these are fabric grow bags over here. And again, growing up nicely in the support systems and starting to see some flowers as well. So these are super happy. Now, when I start harvesting some of these cool season crops, I will be replacing them with something else. I'm not sure what yet, carrots or something, not sure, but there will be no empty spaces in any of my beds as I start harvesting more and more of these cool season crops. So for example, this is one of my cauliflowers, and there's a little bitty head in there. And so I have 2 rows of cauliflowers that are starting to put some heads on. There's another really nice one. When I harvest these, we will replace them with something. Next to the cauliflower, I have cabbage, and that cabbage is doing really well. And then broccoli beside that. And this bed, y'all, this metal raised bed, I am super excited with how it's growing. There's been very little pest damage of any kind. Everything just like took off when I put it in this bed. In the bottom of this bed, I have cardboard and logs and all kinds of stuff like that. But the top layers are my happy frog. So it's part of the Fox Farm family of products. So there's Happy Frog in here, or either the Ocean Forest. I don't remember which one without going back to look at the video. But it's happy in this soil. And these are more plastic pots of potatoes that you see that means there's potatoes down below. My potatoes have always done really well in this space here. I've No complaints. I've been putting potatoes in this space here now for about 4 years. Started out with all pots, and then the pot game continued to grow. And now I have one metal bed of potatoes and all of those same pots that I used to put potatoes in. So probably twice as many potatoes planted this year. There's only one pot that I'm having a problem with, and I have banana potatoes in this pot here, and I've never grown banana potatoes before. And that pot right there has banana potatoes in it as well. And you see, they're happy. They've grown, they've leafed up and everything. So a banana potato is a fingerling style potato, and I believe it's a late season potato. And so I dug in this pot, and the potatoes are down there. They're not rotted out or anything like that, but it has no eyes on it, and it's not doing anything. But I'm going to keep watering in, and then I'll go in and I'll check it again. But I planted that pot the same time I planted these two, and that pot right there is banana potatoes as well, and it's happy. It's in a fabric pot versus plastic. I don't think that's really making a difference, but we will see what's going on with it. This orange pot behind it here, this was another pot that I started indoors, and it's starting to look a little ragged as well. But I don't think it's ready to harvest like the other pot. So this one has at least a couple more weeks on it. I'm going to let it die all the way back before I even think about harvesting that one. Now look at this one right here. This is my Vego Garden rolling tomato planter. It's self-watering, and this plant looks good, y'all. It's happy. I moved it off of my patio, so it was sitting over there. I moved it over here after we finished with all the mulch and stuff in this area. I moved it over here, put it on a paver so it's nice and level, and it's getting so much more sun over here. It's happy. And if you remember, I also have a cucumber growing in here. And I know tomatoes and cucumbers growing in the same space. Don't know if it's going to help it, hurt it, or if it even matters, but it's happy, looking good. Now this is not a GreenStalk video, but I want you to see the peppers right here. This is the yellow monster pepper. Look at that. Look how good that looks. And I started that pepper indoors in my indoor garden, and then I brought it outside, and there are banana peppers beside it here. Now these are ready to harvest. I mean, they're happy. Yes, I'm getting peppers already in Southwest Ohio in May. You can't beat that. You can't beat it at all. We got a super heavy rain a couple of days ago, and it greened up this GreenStalk like you would not believe. You can see all the new growth that came on in almost 24 hours time of it being, I would say, watered naturally, right? With the rain that came down. Look, you can see how dark green that is versus how it's light green down there. That's just from the rain. That wonderful natural rain with all those minerals, trace minerals and things that your garden needs. Rainwater is always the best. So I'm not going to do a big GreenStalk update or anything like that. I'm just going to show you the ones that I have right here and how they're starting to fill out. And I really need to get the trellising on these GreenStalks. Now everything in this GreenStalk right here are dwarf tomatoes. And they're green and they're filling out, and they usually have really thick stems, and they're looking good. They're looking really, really good. Got some cucumbers in there too. They're looking good. Hey Basil, how you doing? You coming on up too. You're getting happy. And those little bitty ones are finally waking on up. So Basil's gonna be okay. I was worried for a minute. And I got a couple pockets that I need to replace. And I have lettuce that's going to seed. And these are little bitty herb self-watering planters as well from Vego Garden. And they're really for indoors, but I'm leaving them outdoors for now because they're just enjoying the sunlight. If it gets too hot, I'll take them in, but right now I have them outside, and I have a pepper plant growing in that one. And then in this one right here, I have a red robin micro dwarf tomato that's got tons of blooms on it back there. In this one, I have spearmint, which I didn't want to put in the ground. I heard mint is so invasive, so I definitely wanted to keep it contained. So I have mint there, and Vego Garden does sell plants as well. And so this is a spearmint plant from Vego Garden. There's also sweet marjoram in there. And in this one, I have oregano. I had a rosemary, I believe, that was in this one that it didn't survive. It died, but that's okay. Oregano will fill this one up nicely. And all of the plants that I had down here, and I had a ton of them down here, they're almost gone. I donated a ton of my starts. So I donated a ton of my starts. So after I grew everything and I've given all of them away, the plant sale, I didn't have to do a yard sale because people just came up and said, hey, are you ready to sell your plants? So I let them get what they wanted. So after the plant sale was over, and what I had left, I donated all of them to basically a neighbor. So my neighbor's daughter runs a home for autistic adults, basically, young adults that are autistic. And every summer they plant a garden. So I donated the rest of my starts for them to have vegetables to plant for that garden that they're going to grow. And so when I get pictures, I will share those pictures with you. I knew that was a good cause, as you know, I have an autistic daughter myself, so I understand how they can really get into gardening. And so when I get those pictures back, I'll share with all of you as well. So all of my starts went to, in my mind, a good use. And all I got left is just a few things over here. And these few things that are over here, I will get them put in my garden to replace some of the plants that didn't do so well or fill in spots. And I do have a few more petunias over here that I need to get planted, a few more zinnias, a couple of flowers there that I need to take care of. Like I have petunias growing in this pot here. And this is another one of those petunias with a very pretty petal. It's different from the traditional petals that I grow. So that's one of my petunias. And there's supposed to be quite a few in this one here, but it looks like only 2 made it. So I'll need to add some more to that pot. And these are my daughter's, my autistic daughter's vegetables. It looks like she's growing some type of tomato there. At least that's what I think that is. And she's growing a handful of carrots. She planted everything at one time. She probably planted 500 seeds in these 2 pots, but these are her pots in her little gardening space. These are my purple and yellow wax beans in this one here. They're looking pretty good. Looks like they're getting ready to start blooming, and they're just mixed up. There's not any one row with just one thing. I didn't have enough seeds to do it that way this year, but they're happy. They're looking good. Not too much pest damage on them either. And then that one back there is all collards, all collard greens. And I think there's 3 different kinds of collard greens in there now. So when I get back, we will be picking them. Early on, I had a little bit of worm damage, but my daughter's not afraid of worms. Now, I'm not afraid of worms. I just don't like them, so I don't want to touch them. But my daughter doesn't mind touching them. So she came over here and she picked all the worms off of this one for me. And I haven't had any more get on here since then. And I told her, just be on the lookout. If you see those little green worms, pick them off for me so that they don't eat our food. And either she's been picking them off or we just haven't had much more damage to them. So that's the quick update for the main garden and everything that's going on behind me here, as well as a couple of videos from over at the neighbors. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. I'm going to keep them coming. This is what I like to do. This is my therapy. So until next time, and I hope there will be a next time that you hang out with me, Kim, at Kim's Cozy Corner.